I'm Amy, sex educator, somatic sex and relationship coach, and sex shop owner.
And I'm April, VP of an international high-end pleasure products company and boss queen sex toy mogul. We're best friends who make our own rules about who we are as sexual beings.
With everything from how to be a badass in the bedroom to top tips for bringing your relationship to the next level, we have something just for you.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com. Hello, everyone.
Hey, y'alls. Down in Texas.
Texas inside joke today. Today we have a very special episode. It's always a special episode.
Do you know about that song, All My Exes Live in Texas?
Sing it. Sing it.
All my exes live in Texas. Now they all heard me in Memphis, Tennessee.
That's good.
Yeah.
Makes me want to go to Texas. Are we going to Texas? We're going to Texas.
We're going to Texas in April.
We're going to Austin.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be recording live from Austin.
Yes, we will.
Hallelujah.
Hi, Austin.
So, everyone, this episode is
number 40-something.
40. I think it's 43.
Yeah, 43.
And this, I think I'm actually accurate this time. And this is a wonderful follow-up to what we just did because 42 was Me Too, sexual assault, trauma,
That's
and
convenient.
consent.
42 is Me Too.
It's very convenient. Well said, April. And now 43 is a wonderful follow-up.
About
that is
Texas.
going to be... No, it's not about Texas, everyone. We're not talking about that kind of politics.
But we love you all, y'all Texans.
No, this one is... okay, so this one is going to be called BEmpowered, Jui Jitsu and Self-Defense for Sex and... Well, self-defense as well. So
Insert hiya here.
Yeah. So we just discovered.
Wait, Amy, we have to say we have magical guests in the house right here.
They're here. They're watching us. They're
here.
like, wow, this is what a podcast
I know.
looks like.
They're like, wow, this is very not as exciting as we'd hoped.
Really professional.
Insert fireworks now as well.
It's wild. But before we go in, let's talk about the wine we're drinking.
Oh, Emma Gato.
Margins
wine. So we had this awesome article in the Good Times. If anyone's local Santa Cruz, if you ever read the Good Times, it's a weekly news paper that is it's just all encompassing about capturing the local Santa Cruz vibe, but also this wonderful editor, Maria. How do you pronounce your last name? Grzowskis.
Now everyone knows.
Now everyone knows. She wrote an article, and we actually received a wine sponsor
that
from
we've been
her
talking
article
about for so long,
forever. But the wine, not only we're picky
about
we're
wine
picky.
too. This isn't just someone giving us a wine and us being
No.
like, okay, this is actually a really good wine.
It was we're particular.
And it's awesome because it's women-owned and operated, crafting low-intervention wines using grapes from
biodynamic
regions, vineyards, and varietals. Mm-hmm.
And they're underrepresented regions as well. And she makes wines that are biodynamic and they're organic, and she is fantastic. Her name's Megan. I don't know her last name, but she's fantastic. So, Megan, love you. Margins wine.
Love your wine. What kind of wine are we drinking?
We're drinking the red Sangiovese, I believe.
Yes, we are.
The Sangiovese.
And how would you describe this
I would describe it as, hold on a second.
She knows her wine, everyone, by the way. When we go into a restaurant and we order wine, I'm just like, whatever she says we should have.
There's some vanilla.
Oh,
blackberry, boysenberry, panty dropping, boysenberry. Anybody? It's fabulous.
It's delicious.
It's very dark in color. So half of the wine when you're drinking wine, it's not just about the actual flavor. It's about the look, the bouquet, and or the schnoz smell. So when you're drinking wine, if you want to be fancy and you're like tasting wine, go and smell it first. Swirl it. Smell it, take a big old whiff, and be like, I smell boysenberry. And then they'll always be like, she knows what she's talking about. they'll say that right away. That's what I do.
Don't they call it the nose? Like, it's the nose.
It's the bouquet.
That's the bouquet.
Yeah.
I've heard that the tongue, the tip. I don't know. There's all these terms for the
JTT,
wine world.
just the tip of your
when
nose.
I've gone wine tasting, I was like, oh God, I have no idea what you schnozy people
I went
are
wine
talking about.
tasting in Chile, and it's so serious. They were like, I was like, I'm smelling vanilla, and they're like,
Nope.
it's not at all. Nope, we don't get that at all.
You're
I was
wrong.
like, but really? But it's your palate. Anyway, Margins
Margins
wine.
wine, everyone. So go to marginswine.com. Really delicious wine. They have
Reasonably priced as well.
and women owned and operated.
Women
How
owned and
awesome
operated.
is
And it's
that?
local Santa Cruz. So if you want great California wines, you can find it at locally shopping at a few different supermarkets like Shoppers Corner. I think she also has it at Staff of Life. So if you're not in Santa Cruz, you can probably order it online. And it's about $25 a bottle. And you will enjoy. If you don't, you know what? You will eventually. Your palate just has to develop. Okay, thanks.
Delicious. Okay, so sex questions. We're going to do one sex question before we go into our topic.
And we were trying to decide on the pronunciation because my series has an Australian accent, and I believe it's vaginismus.
Vaginismus. Yes, exactly.
So this
Well done.
question is regarding struggling vaginismus.
And we're not going to read it in Australian accent.
And it's, no, we're not. No. But it is an anonymous, and they prefer to stay anonymous. Okay. So, Amy, you're up.
So I'm reading it?
Why not?
Oh, wow. You already read it. Okay, so the pressure is on. So this person, hi, I've recently been diagnosed with vaginismus. I went about 1 year without seeking help or getting a diagnosis because I was so embarrassed. The doctors and I aren't sure about what caused it as I have no trauma or negative feelings towards sex. It just happened one day and gradually got worse. My question is, how do I support my partner through this as I feel that I am not meeting his needs sexually as we currently aren't able to achieve any penetration. I'm now fearful of the pain to come, and it has affected my libido, which makes it hard for me to even initiate pleasing him some days. Thank you, Anonymous. Wow. Okay, so vaginismus. This is a time, in my opinion, to ask your partner for support. So you're looking to support your partner. And I think your partner does need support, of course. It's not like, oh, screw you, it's all about me. But you're going through some stuff too. So I guess my first inclination would be to focus on how can they support you? And then how can you also support them? But it sounds like you're the one going through the hurt and the trauma and the change. So how they can support you would be to put less emphasis on penetration, that sex doesn't only have to be penetration, that there's so many other things on the menu than penetration, oral sex, dry humping, fingers on the vulva, sex toys, there's making out, nipples, kissing all over the body. I mean, that can feel better than penetration sometimes. Oh my God, it's hot. You're like 16 again. It's great. I don't even know if this person's 16, but they might be. I don't know. But so I guess your partner coming to a supportive place and understanding that of what your needs are, and that penetration isn't what sex has to be all about. Sex can be so many things. Sex doesn't have to go, like we think of sex as always going that it's like all or nothing. And when we can get away from that, then there's so many other things on the menu, especially when trauma and health related issues come about. So there's that piece for your partner to start getting creative and supportive over where you're at. And then penetration. Awesome. So many beautiful things happen. It doesn't have to be on the menu all the time or for a while you're figuring out what's going on with your body. And this person isn't really asking, what do I do about this vaginismus? But I do want to comment on the pelvic floor or episode that we had. I don't remember what number that is, but pelvic floor.
With the Dr. Sarah.
She works with that. And so please listen to that episode.
It was in the 20s, 20-something.
Yeah. And my understanding, and I could be wrong, so please don't get mad at me if I'm not perfect about this, but vaginismus is when the muscles are
atrophying.
There's no tightness. They're like they're clamped down
so
permanently.
Much tightness. Okay.
Yeah. So like they won't loosen up. And so anything trying to go inside, they actually won't move forward. And so there's ways to work with it. It's actually not like a death sentence for the vagina. It's just that there's treatments treatments are usually a physical therapy, I believe.
Well, she was also commenting in her email that the doctors weren't exactly sure of a treatment at this point. So, and we're not here to support with treatment options.
Yeah, but I do want to refer her to that episode though, because Dr. Sarah Tanza talked about this in the episode. I'm like 99% sure. And regular Western medical doctors aren't trained on pussies. They're just not.
No.
They just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And then even the ones that are working with pussies half the time still don't understand modern day. They're just listening to what they were told about it. They're not listening to modern day science, or not modern day science, but experience. So I really, really have a lot of faith in Dr. Sarah Tanza, and she is on that episode. Look up pelvic floor health. It's like 30 something. I don't remember the number.
And she carries around an insane 3D model of a pelvic floor with her.
She knows her stuff.
That basically introduced me to so many different places in my pelvic floor that I did not know existed, because they're in there. I'm like, what is this?
I have muscles there.
I was like, that thing's blue.
Yeah. What? Yeah,
That's
I have blue inside of me.
Wow.
And then the last piece that you were saying is how you can support your partner. So I do want to honor that in supporting your partner. I think the first thing would be explaining to them, of course, what's going on with your body, and then letting them know, teaching them or educating them on the many different ways that you can play that don't involve penetration. Letting them know that you still value their need to feel wanted, desired, and experience pleasure. So you want to work with them, and penetrative sex is not on the table. So what can we do together to make this a co-creation? Because I still want to connect with you. I still want you to feel wanted and desired.
Especially since they feel like they're not meeting his needs, as they say. So,
but I think
communication.
Your pussy's priority right here, though. You're the one going through some shit. So your partner is important. I'm not saying neglect them, but don't put your own hard and very challenging experience aside to please the cock. I mean, that's kind of what so many women are doing. I think that I'm not saying oh, fuck them, it's all about me. And I think that it is important to understand that to really put value on what you're going through, and that while you want to support him, he also in turn needs to support you.
Yes.
You agree?
I do.
Chip agrees.
I agree.
Chip and dip.
I think it is important, though, to connect with them. So if this is a ongoing process where you're feeling just disconnected with them, check in on a regular basis and let them know what you're feeling, because your pussy is important too. And until you have
we love your pussy.
Until you have a solution for the undergoing medical situation, it is important to keep checking in and be sure that you're trying to adhere to your partner's needs as much as you can, even if it is just emotional and not physical.
But don't forget about your needs.
And your needs are important as well.
I'm very, very adamant
Thank
about
you,
that.
Anonymous.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right, so we have so many sex questions, but we're now going to jump into our podcast. This one we are calling BEmpowered. And there's only one E in there, so the B is a B-E capital and then empowered.
It's not B like bzzz.
No, you will be empowered.
Oh.
So
good, because I didn't bring my EpiPen to this, and I'm allergic to bees.
And our topic here is going to be specifically geared around Jui Jitsu, talking about self-defense, and also how we can use Jui Jitsu for sex. Hello, how hot is that? And I don't know how many people have taken your classic women's self-defense class, but we'll talk about the differences between a traditional women's self-defense class and what we're talking about here, this Brazilian Jui Jitsu. And there's an upcoming workshop that is happening that we'll talk about. It's going to be April 5th through May 17th. That's Thursday nights at 7:45 to 9 p.m. And it's a 6-week immersion here in Santa Cruz. Or you can do a 2-weekend intensive, May 5th and May 12th, Saturdays 12 to
Where is it in Santa
PM.
Cruz, though?
It is at Claudio Franco's studio here in Santa Cruz.
Ooh.
And we will find out more information on how to contact Chris, who we are going to be speaking with. But before we dive in, let me tell you about Chris. Do you want to know about Chris?
I would love to know about Chris.
Right,
but does he say Haya after his name?
Yes, that
Chris, Jui Jitsu. Haya.
That's karate.
It is? Damn it.
I don't know. Do they even say that in karate? No, Chris is shaking his head. He's like,
they never say
that's
Haya.
in Looney Tunes or something.
No, it's in old school kung fu movies.
Is it?
Right?
Hi-ya.
It is. Black and white kung fu movies.
So it's kung fu then.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways.
Okay.
So,
That was
right,
solved.
everyone. So our speaker here, and by the way, I've known Chris for a number of years. I just love this man. He's like, you have something in here that was called you, what is it? It was like some badass Buddha. Yeah, he's a badass Buddha. He's got this very gentle spirit to him, but he will put you in a motherfucking headlock, yo. So
Damn.
don't fuck with him. He's got a good story about that. So
Tell me about Chris. I want to hear about Chris.
Chris, right here, is a former attorney, a business broker, an entrepreneur, currently working in marketing for a local tech firm. He grew up in Philadelphia and moved to Los Angeles in 1990, where he worked in film and TV production before finding his home in Santa Cruz in 1996. Chris met his wife, Lisa, who's also here, at Burning Man. Woo! And is a father to 2 amazing teenagers. He received his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 2016 and is a former Pan-American champion, American Cup champion, and 3 times U.S. Open champion. And yeah.
Insert hiya here.
Yeah, insert hiya. And I also just want to say, while we're focusing here on this, and this is a great topic with the Me Too thing and with what we just talked about with trauma and assault and consent. So we're talking specifically about using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for self-defense and also for sex. But a side note, Chris and Lisa have a really beautiful love story that I don't know if we have time to talk about it here. It might be another podcast, but these 2 were magic humans. So
they were meant to be.
And just
the universe
filled with beauty and magic. So,
but I do want to know, when Chris takes the mic, if jiu-jitsu had a noise, what it would be.
Okay. Let's start with, do you have a noise for that?
That's a really interesting first question. First, I want to say the hi-ya, I think, is Kung Fu. In karate, it's a kiai.
Kiai.
Kiai!
Yeah. Perfect.
Jiu-jitsu would either be or hey.
What do you do when you do a hey? Like, what kind of movement are you doing?
Usually just waving at the guy who came in and you're going, hey! So we do that a lot.
You're just saying hello.
Yeah.
So it's friendly. It's a friendly sport.
Or if somebody gets a good move, they score a great point and the whole team will go, hey!
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Brazilian sport. These are fun-loving Brazilian guys. They like to have fun.
I like this
thing in Portuguese. Brazilian Portuguese does have a hey at the end. When I was in Brazil doing work, and I couldn't believe, I was like, the language is so lovely. Everyone just always sounds like hey at the end, like ciao. It's true.
Beautiful. Yeah. Hey.
Hey.
All right. So, Chris, we just did a little bio, but can you just tell us a little bit about your journey into the world of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? How'd you get in there? How'd you become the badass Buddha?
Okay, this is an awesome story, and I love telling it. First of all, I want to say the wine is really delicious. What's the name of the
Margins wine.
Margins, awesome. And I want to compliment you guys because I was really impressed how you actually made penetration sound kind of boring. All that talk about dry humping and pounding the clitoris. I was like, wow, we got to go home and improve, honey. So blessings to your listeners. I'm sure you inspire them. So how did I get into jiu-jitsu? That's a great story. I actually started karate back in Philly in the 80s. And when I moved out to LA, I was working in a law firm as a law clerk. And there was this other guy at the law firm who I got my brown belt. I was like a year away from getting my black belt. And then I moved out to California. And all the schools were different. And the techniques were all a little different. And I just I felt like I was starting over. And I got discouraged. And I never finished, So a couple years later, this guy's in the law firm. And he's got his black belt in Taekwondo. So we're always talking about martial arts and stuff. And one day he comes into the dojo. He comes into the office. And he's like, dude, I've been doing this new martial art. It is so cool. You got to try it. It's called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I swear I learned more in 3 weeks than I learned in 3 years of Taekwondo. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, come down and check it out. So a couple weekends later, I go down to this dojo. And sure enough, I was feeling pretty comfortable with myself at that time. I was 28. I was strong, working out. I had a brown belt in karate. And there were these women were tossing me around the mat and tapping me out, and little guys who didn't look like much, and I was just getting smashed and crushed, and it was just crazy. And I was like, wow, this really is powerful. And so they were down there and they were talking about how, oh yeah, this is the most powerful martial art in the world. And I'm like, oh yeah, everybody says that. No, but we're going to prove it. We're going to be putting on this big event, and it's going to be called the Ultimate Fighting Challenge, the UFC, and we're going to bring in a kung fu guy and a boxer and a karate guy and a Taekwondo guy. We're going to put them all in the ring like a human cockfight, and we're going to win it. And I'm like, you guys are pretty confident. And they're like, well, we've been doing this for 50 years in Brazil. And yeah, we're, now we're bringing it to here. And I'm like, no way. So that's the only reason I ever heard of the UFC or I watched UFC #1, which was on cable, pay-per-view. And this was back in the early 90s. And tuned in, and son of a gun, their guy was like basically my size, Hoist Gracie. He was about 6'1", 180 pounds. And he's taking on these Goliath football player size guys who are all like black belts in Taekwondo and national kickboxing champions and all this stuff. And he beat the crap out of him and he made it look easy. And he didn't even get a scratch. And I was like, wow, I want to learn that, you know? And so I had been already training a little bit. So I continued for about a year or so. But then long story short, I moved up to Santa Cruz, got married, had babies, had a business, and like 10 years went by. And so this was about 12, 13 years ago. And I trained on and off a little bit, but all this time went by. And one day my son was sitting on the bed. He was still in diapers, I think, or he seemed like it. We were just playing on the bed. He's like 3 years old. And I realized I was messing with him, and I was showing him jiu-jitsu moves. I was like, this is how you do a choke. This is how you do an arm bar. And I realized, Jesus, I never stopped thinking about jiu-jitsu. I've been thinking about it for 10 years. It's like, I got to get my ass back on the mat before it's too late, because this is obviously calling to me. So I walked into the dojo, and Claudia was there. He remembered me from having trained years before. And I was like, hey, I'm back. I'm going to compete. I'm going to get my black belt. And he's like, oh, he kind of laughed. Okay, yeah, we'll see. And I just trained, and I never looked back.
A dojo, because I'm not familiar with jiu-jitsu, obviously,
sure.
with my Haya.
Call me on the vernacular.
What is a dojo?
Dojo is just a Japanese word for school. And see, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu actually originated from Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and it was brought over in the early 1900s by the Japanese that were kind of exporting their martial arts and trying to do the same thing the Brazilians did. It's like, hey, showing the world, we've got the best martial art. And it's a long story, but they landed in Brazil, and this family adopted this one emissary, is the Gracie family, and they are kind of like the dynasty of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And this little guy, Elio Gracie, who was like 5'8", very frail, he refined jiu-jitsu for weaker, smaller people to be, because all his brothers and everybody else was much bigger than he was. And so he developed these techniques for fighting off his back and winning off his back, like choking people unconscious from when you're like somebody's on top of you and they think they're winning and all of a sudden they're losing, and nobody could figure that out. And that's what blew people away in UFC #1, because like here's Hoist Gracie with this giant gargantuan guy on top of him beating the crap out of him, and all of a sudden the guy's tapping out and unconscious, and they're like, what the hell just happened?
Skills.
That's the power. Yeah. And that's when we found out, everybody thought, fighting was about how big you were, how strong you were, and it turned out no, it's how much you know and making the right moves and how comfortable you are in that situation. But it's your skills first. It's knowing what to do, and a little person can beat up a big person.
So that's so perfect for this conversation. So then, I guess, so what inspired you to create, this is your background in getting into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but what inspired you to create this workshop? Is it to, help the little guys, because the workshop is geared towards, it's not just for women, this BEmpowered workshop. It's not just for women, it's for anyone to learn on how to protect themselves from an empowered way.
Yeah. Well, and Lisa has an answer she's going to throw in, but I'll just intro it by saying, first of all, you guys inspired me. Initially.
Us?
Yeah, I read the wonderful article about you guys in the Good Times.
That Maria wrote?
That Maria wrote. And just hit me at the right time. And I was thinking, that's really cool. I was reading about you, April, and you gave up law school and, we're doing what you're doing. And, really just, I was like, wow, man, they're really interested in sex. And now they're doing sex for a living. That's awesome. I've been thinking about, doing jiu-jitsu for a living for years, but it's not really like a great way to make a living. Even owning a school is not very profitable. It's not an easy road. So for years I've just kind of written it off as a hobby, and I was thinking, I wish there was a way I could do something, that I could make a little money, but I could teach it, because I love teaching jiu-jitsu. I just love jiu-jitsu and I love teaching it. And I was reading about that, and then for some reason it hit me. It's like at our school it's just, you sign up and you train for 2, 3, 4 months, 5 months, a year, whatever, until you learn some stuff. And I was like, why can't we just have like a really focused class where people can just get the essential techniques, not all the fancy stuff we do, for tournaments or whatever, but just the real nuts and bolts, practical stuff. And actually adopted it from a class that the Gracies teach, which is called, similar name actually, Women Empowered, and it's you get a pink belt at the end of it, and it's like just the top 15 positions that most women are likely to find themselves in a bad situation and how to deal with it. But when I got done with it, I realized, for anybody who just wants an immersion into jiu-jitsu and wants to really, just get the most essential techniques, I mean, these are all good techniques for anybody to know, including men. So I was like, why limit it to just women? Mm-hmm. But it was really conceived as a woman's class, and I just wanted to share it because jiu-jitsu is, it is so powerful for women, and I think it is the best martial art for a woman to know because it deals with ground fighting. And a lot of times women, your fight's going to start on the ground, possibly. If it's like a date rape situation, a lot of women get in awkward situations, where it's already like we're already horizontal, It's like, okay, I'm done making out now. Oh, no, we're not, And so knowing how to move on the ground is essential,
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I consider myself non-violent, but I know that there has to be ways to combat someone when you're unexpectedly being, physically encountered with someone that is obviously less desirable. So I'm interested, and it's going to be difficult to explain because we're in a podcast, but like...
Oh, I can explain it.
Okay, good, because I'm just super... What?
We wanted to hear Lisa's story of that piece. Yeah, because Lisa has a story of the creation of this.
I do have a story, and I have a couple, and I can answer what you were saying, April, because I don't like violence. I had a situation once actually where I was going to be raped. I'm a very strong woman, and just because I reacted quickly and literally pushed him with both feet as he was trying to get on top of me, he hit a wall, and I had enough time to run out. But had he got on top of me, and that I didn't know jiu-jitsu, I don't know what would have happened.
So you had known jiu-jitsu before that?
I don't know jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
I know it. I know parts of it because I've watched him fight, cheered him on. I've got on the ground and rolled, and we have a dojo in our garage. This rape attempt happened when I was about 18 years old.
Wow.
So I didn't even plan on bringing that up, but that fear base, and because I'm so strong, I basically bench pressed him with my legs into the wall. But had he got on top of me, I would have wished that I have known what I've seen Chris do. And on that note, so there's two things. First off, he is the badass Buddha. I named him that. And what happened was he had a really cool situation where he lost his wallet, and he thought it was gone. And he found about a month later a note on Facebook Message. And some young woman that found it had reached out on Facebook and found him. And long story short, they connected, and he wanted to bring her something more than just flowers. And he got talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She expressed an interest, and she brought a friend, and he offered to teach her and her friend some self-defense moves. And then he asked me if I wanted to come over and watch part of this. Watching these women with my husband and the way that he taught them, he's this very calm, very Buddha-like man, and he's out there showing them and grabbing them by the neck like they would be, and you could see the fear. I could feel the fear. You're thinking of that, and he's calm, and he was showing them just moves of how they can get out or how they can get into a position where you're going to possibly break the arm, but the control, and they were small women that were with you. They lit up. They were loving it. And I thought afterwards, I said to him, I could really see you. You're a born teacher, and I can see the empowerment these women had. And so I'm really happy that he's going to be doing that. But in answering, and I'll give the mic because this is his show, not mine. But it's your show. It's actually, you guys are freaking awesome.
Everyone's
by the way.
show.
I love you guys. But I do. I love you guys. I listen to you when I'm on my Stairmaster sometimes.
She's like, I'm getting it
I'm on a Stairmaster. But okay, so I will just say this: we did meet at Burning Man. I was able to see Chris use his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and this story is actually funny and scary at the same time. I've been to Burning Man 5 times. I've never felt scared or worried, and even though people are having a great old time, sex, drugs, and not rock and roll, but techno, and and we were listening to actually a live band. They were freaking awesome. And this man was so drugged out that he was banging into everybody, and he kept banging into me. He was a big man. He was probably a couple inches taller than Chris and up in 230 pounds. And the second or third time, he was starting to intimidate and scare the crowd because nobody really wants violence there. And he hit me. He kind of bumped into me pretty hard. And I heard Chris whisper in my ear as we're dancing, honey, if he gets a little too out of hand, I feel like I have to do something. And I've never heard him say that. And I actually felt calm because I know at the same time I was intimidated. This man started climbing up on the stage. People were grabbing his pants. So his pants, he was crawling out of his pants. His ass was hanging out. And the guy singing was getting ready to hit him with the mic stick. And all of a sudden, at first I said it took 30 seconds, but Chris corrected me and said it was all of like 4 or 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. He went and grabbed this man from behind, pulled him down on the ground, and I didn't know it at the time, but as he was choking him out, he was saying to him, I love you, man. I love you, man. It's okay. I love you, man.
So Burning Man.
It's so Burning Man. The guy goes to sleep. My heart's pounding out of my chest. He didn't quite choke him out hard enough, so the guy starts fighting, and Chris realizes as he hooks his arm back in there, and he puts the guy completely asleep. I'm sure I'm saying again, I love you, man. And we were able to walk around the back of the band. When the man came to, they got him to lay down on a couch, a dusty couch somewhere where he could sleep it off. He was like, hey, what happened? He was my hero, my badass Buddha. And so anyway, that's just an example. And I'm going to let him go back because I've hogged this mic way too long.
I wonder if Chris can just come over to my house every night and choke me out so I can go to sleep easily. It's a good, like...
He was peaceful. He looked really peaceful.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty safe with my husband.
Yeah. Well, and I had heard that story from you too before, and I loved the I love you component that it was. So that's what April was talking about with the violence component. You know, we're not talking necessarily about, this isn't violence. This isn't, I'm going to pull a gun out on you and shoot you and kick your ass. This is like, this is me taking care of my own body. And in the Burning Man case, it was coming from peace and love, but you had to also put someone to sleep in that process for the greater good.
Yes, and that's what is so beautiful about jiu-jitsu and why it is such a powerful art and why it empowers people so much and is so empowering for women, because it's nonviolent. You submit people to the degree necessary, commensurate with the level of the attack, right? So whereas other self-defense classes and other martial arts are based in striking, right? So they teach you how to smash the guy's nose up to his forehead and hit him in the throat, right? And kick him in the nuts and break things, And when I like to say, when a hand grenade is your only weapon, it's almost like not having a weapon at all. You're very loath to use it, right? You need interim weapons, and tools to get yourself out of a situation that don't involve starting a massive fight, right? Just a knockdown, drag 'em out fight. And so jiu-jitsu is about leveraging your body. It's a very intimate art because it's on the ground, which is where you're going to probably end up one way or another, And so, especially if you're a smaller person, and it's about leveraging your weight and your position to either put somebody to sleep or at least just get them off you, which is, what you need to do when you're under attack.
So, on that note, what are some things that we can, I know this is mostly experiential. Like, in the workshop, this is things that people need to practice to figure it out. It's not just, but what are some things that you can tell people right now that they can take home, some tools right now to be able to defend themselves?
Well, that would be challenging, but
thanks for being honest.
But let's maybe I can do it. But I'll start with some basic jiu-jitsu theory, which is really powerful, and that is jiu-jitsu is all about distance management. It's about, because where you don't want to be is where most people put themselves in an altercation. When somebody is, hitting you or attacking you, you tend to put your hand up to defend, and you tend to keep them right at arm's length, which is exactly where they want to be, especially if their arms are just a little longer than yours, so they can hit you. And so that's the red zone. That's where you don't want to be. So you either want to be about 2 arm lengths away, which is where they can't kick you or punch you. You're totally safe. There to infinity, total safe zone, right? Then there's the red zone. We're about an arm length away. The other green zone is wrapped around them like a blanket, like they were your lover.
See, this is very valuable. Okay, continue.
Yeah. So you're wrapped around them like a blanket. Now, they can still hit you, right? They can still, bump you and scratch you, but they're not going to damage you.
So you're on the hips. Your legs are on the hips.
You're wrapped around either the front or the back, but just in tight, in
so
tight.
We're snuggling,
tight.
basically.
Snuggling, yeah,
okay,
literally.
Got it.
I'm telling you, jiu-jitsu is
they can't
intimate.
kick you or elbow you in the kidney or something?
No, not when you're wrapped
not
around
that I've
their
had
body
it, but
tight.
I was just thinking.
And it's a very confusing situation for an attacker to find their opponent wrapped around them like glue, and then all of a sudden,
oh my God, mind fuck.
Yeah. It's really weird.
It's the snuggle violence.
Yeah, that's exactly what it
it's
is.
like a boa constrictor.
So they can sort of hit you like little jabs and stuff, but they're not going to knock you out. They're not going to break your nose. They're not going to, So that's the other safe zone, and sometimes that's the only place you have to go.
I think we need to film this though for real because I think I'm going to try to have Chris like abduct me.
Okay, so we're gonna.
He's a very attractive, but it's not a sexual thing. But maybe it could be. No.
All right, so we're
We'll get to
gonna
that
film
next.
a little mini version separate from this, and to learn more, obviously the workshop.
Yes. Sorry to interrupt. I'm so sorry, but I
No,
just
no.
had to say that.
So just to conclude, I mean, that thought is like once you're in that zone, and in jiu-jitsu, you learn how to really stick to somebody like glue, and how to work around their body. From there, you can start working yourself in all kinds of positions, and from pretty much every position, there's a way to submit them, to break something, because jiu-jitsu is all about focusing on the joints. And so you're putting your entire body weight, your entire core of your whole body is, against their elbow or against their wrist or into twisting their shoulder, or it's a choke. It's the same thing. It's your whole body just going against their neck and putting them to sleep. So you can easily walk away. Well, not easily, but you can, we hear, reports. The Gracie Institute gets reports all the time from women who wrote in, oh my God, here's another incident. I got attacked and I choked this guy out, with my legs. And you learn how to do that. That's really cool.
So if there are folks out there who've had classic training in self-defense, I guess, would you suggest jiu-jitsu over that classic self-training, or what are the differences between the common self-defense practices and jiu-jitsu in self-defense?
Well, I never want to say anything over anything else because
Sure.
every weapon is a good weapon to have. And you definitely, it's good to be able to, know how to knee somebody in the groin. And sometimes you have to do that, All weapons are on the table, right? But the striking arts, it's one tool in your tool chest. And if you could only learn one, yeah, I'd say jiu-jitsu first. I really would. But ideally, learn a mix of tricks.
I like that. Keeping a lot of tools in your tool belt.
Yeah.
So I remember taking women's self-defense when I was 13. I'm now 33, everyone. Yes, when I was 13, I took women's self-defense. And yeah, why not? And
Rescue breathing for infants.
rescue breathing for infants. That's because you grew up in Wisconsin. So they were like, you're going to get pregnant. So so here in California, it was like, you got to protect yourself. So here's a women's self-defense class. And what I remember learning was most things were an arm's length away, and it was grab, twist, pull, because it was bound to be a man that was going to get you, and take your heel and stomp it on their foot and smash their foot. Take your elbow and elbow, just as much elbows as possible. And so when you say I think I looked around the table when you were like, wrap your body around them. It's just the complete opposite of what anyone would have ever thought. And so I find this really fascinating from what traditional women's self-defense teaches. That's not what they teach.
No, it's not. It's nonviolent, and because those techniques are great, those are designed for like what I think most of us fear is going to happen. The violent attack in the parking lot. I'm going to have to strike. And it's going to be in the woods. Somewhere I'm going to be fighting for my life. But I suspect that more women are having problems in the bedroom with the guy they just met and took home that night, or the guy they been dating for a few nights and now or weeks or months, and now they just found out, oh, he's got an anger management problem, or he's got whatever, and
Well, and most date rape is not random, or no, most rape is not random. It's date rape. It's people that you knew.
Yeah.
So it's someone. It's not just like, oh, there's a stranger, I'm going to rape them. It's like someone that you knew and went on a date with, or two, or a first
that's
date.
what happened with Lisa. It wasn't a stranger. And in fact, you had another incident, honey, with somebody you had been dating, and then he showed up and he kind of forced himself on her, like in an unpleasant, inappropriate way, that he should not have done, and so what's she supposed to do? Break his nose, gouge his eyes out, No, but if she could have just rolled him off her, which is the first thing you learn in jiu-jitsu is how to get a big guy who's sitting on you off. And let me tell you, if you don't know how and you have a big guy sitting on top of you, it is a scary situation. It is not fun to feel like you're pinned down and you can't get up and you're at their mercy. And they may not even be hitting you. They might just have their hands on your throat. It's a scary place to be. You're just at their whim. And so knowing how to get out of that, the time to learn isn't when they're on top of you, because then, the time to have that figured out is beforehand, and it's not that hard to learn.
I have some serious claustrophobia / trauma from my brother pinning me down in hawking loogies on my face when I was like 5. So I literally, my my partner will kill me for saying this, but he does these these like blanket party things where he puts the blanket over my head. He's like, blanket party. I'm like, don't do it. And I'm like, no. Because he just puts the blanket over my head and then kind of sits on my shoulders. And I'm like, stop it. And it's like so scary because I think about my brother doing the blanket party.
I like
so
your
let's
husband. I
teach
wanna meet
her
him.
some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't listen to the podcast, so he won't even know what's coming. And all of a sudden, she's just wrapped around like a spider monkey.
No, I really need these techniques. So I'm like, I'm taking all the mental notes right now.
Okay.
So, but aside from that, sometimes, there's intimate moments where, how can we? I really do want to know, like, applying jiu-jitsu and this technique in the bedroom, because that is what this podcast is about. So we're taking it from a self-defense range where it's like, obviously maybe there's someone coming at you and you're from a scary point, like my blanket party situation / like from a serious, like people that are exposed to things that they didn't expect, right? To how can we take this from this traumatic standpoint or a self-defense standpoint to like an intimate bedroom experience? Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
She's saying, so what about the fun things?
Okay.
April would like to know, what about the fun things?
All right. Well, I'm sure Lisa, I don't know, Lisa might want to say a few things on this topic, but I'll just say, other than when you're making love to, she's taking off her shirt.
Off.
This is going to be good. She's getting a little hot already just thinking about it.
One layer off. There's more to go. It's consensual,
I didn't realize this is such a hot topic. So all I can say is the only time you're, ever like totally wrapped around another human being, with them on top of you on top of them, your legs wrapped around theirs wrapped around yours, your hand around their neck, all that stuff. Other than when you're making love to somebody and your bodies are like pressed tight against each other. The only time you have that experience is in a martial art like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because even a contact sport like football, you're smashing into people hard, but you're not wrapped into them like that. And in Jiu-Jitsu, that's what you do. If you watch an MMA, any UFC fight, I mean, those guys are tying them. They're like around the back. They're tight, close, head in tight. And so a lot of the movement, you really learn how to move another person's body, in a more forceful way, but you learn how to really like just move gracefully out from underneath of them, how to roll them off the top of you, how to just position them. And that just becomes kind of second nature. And I've just noticed over the years that mentality and those motions and that muscle memory sometimes rolls over into the bedroom, when we're making love and I decide I want her in a different position, and there we are. And it kind of makes it a little more fun. You know what I'm saying? It's
just whoop.
Whoop, and now, now he's on top.
Oh, wow.
Or she's on the bottom or whatever, So it gives you just a certain degree of, grace.
So I'm having a moment here of just thinking about, because I know a lot of men who feel like they're not fully tapped in their masculinity, especially when it comes to sex and in the bedroom. So when you said that, I'm getting this feeling that this might be a good indirect training to give them tools for that. Like I know a lot of men who they feel awkward. I don't feel awkward directing. I feel awkward initiating. I feel awkward like when I want changing all of that stuff. They don't feel confident in that. And part of it is their strength, but part of it is technique. And so it sounds like, of course, jiu-jitsu has so many other things in terms of working with, skills and technique and muscles and all of that. But it feels like it could be this indirect confidence building training for sexuality.
Definitely can't hurt.
So
definitely doesn't hurt.
Lisa
well, it
agrees.
depends on your definition. No, I'm kidding.
Tell us, Lisa.
I just kind of decided to take the mic here. You were mentioning all the different positions, and so so it's really amazing and wonderful having I know Amy has a jiu-jitsu lover.
We keep his name anonymous, but he does jiu-jitsu.
But I'm not going to say his name. But not to mention the fact that their bodies are incredibly in shape and strong. And there's this amazing confidence. And it's so funny. I definitely love sex, and we have a very strong sexual relationship. We've been together for a while, 6 years now, and there's some mornings where I'm a little tired and I take a little more convincing, and all of a sudden I'm telling him, "You're jujitsuing me." He'll get his leg and slowly roll over, and before I know it, boom, I'm in some really cool position. And it's like, whoa, that's kind of cool. So yeah, there is definitely this sense of calm in the way he holds me, the way he pulls me in, his strength, his body, and the different positions. And definitely there is just this sense of this gentle yet very firm and loving. I'm getting a little hot here.
Woo, she's sweaty. She's like, oh.
Getting me a little hot.
So yeah, I have said many times he jujitsus me, but it's fun. I love wrapping my legs around him and pulling him in tight too, and so yeah, it's a good thing.
So if folks out there were partnered up or triaded or quadrilaterally involved, whatever they are, how could you get jujitsu? How did you say it? Oh, jujitsu. I was trying to add a gerund onto that, or some sort of grammatically correct pronoun. No, that's not a pronoun. God, Maria, help me. What are the terms? She's like, no, stop. But how could you get in there and to intimately just take a class for jiu-jitsu first? Because you're not available anywhere outside of Santa Cruz, Chris.
Unless there's enough people who want to fly me out somewhere.
Oh.
I'll go
and
to
which is a great segue into
nice
how we can reach you.
Yes. How can we reach me? The Claudio França Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu website.
It's França?
Yeah, it's pronounced França.
Shit, I said it wrong.
That's okay. Everybody
I said
says
Franco.
Frank. Everybody says that. It's
Damn
okay.
it.
Everybody says that. But
That's what I
yeah,
swear.
actually, the C has a little cedilla underneath it, and it softens the C.
Son of a monkey.
So so it's www.claudiofranca, it's CLAUDIO FRANCA BJJ.com. And then you go under the it says special events or featured events, and there's a flyer and some information. Or it's also on Facebook, facebook.com/C95, C as in Chris, C95 Self-Defense.
And as of now, you're not really teaching a jiu-jitsu for sex workshop, just to be clear, everyone. What we're stating, although I'm pretty sure that if enough of you got really excited about this and flew Chris out, that he would do that. But will you tell us about the offering that's coming up? Like, tell us about the workshop series that is actually about to happen.
Yeah, so the workshop, it's either 6 weeks, once a week, or as you brilliantly suggested, we've got a 2-weekend intensive. It's just 2 Saturday afternoons for people who just can't commit to anything that's more than a couple weeks long. And there's also going to be homework, because learning jiu-jitsu is a bit like learning to play the violin, or learning to swim. Yeah, you're not going to be, a great swimmer when you finish the 6 weeks, but you are going to know how to tread water. And knowing how to tread water when you didn't know how to do anything, that could be a lifesaver right there, right? So I'm going to make sure that after 6 weeks, you've got some, I'm going to be thinking of everybody there like my 14-year-old daughter, who I am actually working on. When they leave, I want to know that, each of those people, or, guys as well, are going to be able to handle themselves. And for the guys, we're going to make it more like a kind of a MMA street fighting angle. I'm going to teach the techniques. They're the same techniques, but just a different perspective, right? I'm going to make sure that, when you guys get out of there, you're going to be comfortable in some of the, the worst possible, most common situations you end up in, and just know what to do. And we're going to drill it. I'm going to give you drills to do at home, so that you build the muscle memory. I'm going to assign videos to watch. Both videos about technique, as well as videos on like from surveillance cameras of actual YouTube videos of attacks. If you don't want to watch those, you don't have to. But if you do, it's really fascinating to see like what actually happens in violent situations. And then we break it down. Like, look, this is what happened. Here's all the things she could have done or he could have done, but because they didn't know what to do, this is how it ended. It's very fighting is just like any sport. There's just a certain way things happen, and there's certain moves you can make to win. So anyway, 6 weeks. You don't have to be in great shape. You don't need any special clothes. Just come in some shorts and a t-shirt or sweats or whatever, dress for yoga. And it's going to be a ton of fun. You know, we're going to learn these techniques. You're going to meet fun people, and it's going to be awesome.
So again, this is a 6-week immersion in Santa Cruz at Claudio Franza.
Hey!
Can we do an immersion class though with high heels and lingerie?
You're designing a whole nother class, which I'm probably gonna be thinking about on the way home tonight.
Yeah.
Intimacy featuring Chris and Lisa.
Hot.
Yeah, I think they might be onto something, honey.
All right. Yeah, there we go. So we're coming up with other ideas, but for now, everyone, if you're all into these other ideas, you should email us if you really want the high heel version, the Jiu-Jitsu for sex version. Otherwise, what we have right now is a 6-week immersion, April 5th through May 17th. That is Thursday nights, 7:45 to 9 p.m. here in Santa Cruz at Claudio Franza's studio. Or you can do a 2-weekend intensive if you're really busy like me. May 5th and May 12th. Those are Saturdays from 12 to 3:30 p.m. And again, you can email Chris at cbalthasar@live.com to learn more.
And you can get all of this information on our website. It was a pleasure having both of you and Maria too joining us at me house on this lovely Tuesday. It's a Tuesday. I couldn't remember what day it was. That's because it's been a long fucking day.
And this has been wonderful. We didn't talk about your journey of your love story, but we're going to have these two back because honestly, everyone, these two, you want to hear their story.
It's a pretty good story.
Yeah, it's a pretty good story. You already heard some really good stories, but there are more stories that are to be told that will give you lots of hope for love and miracles. That's all I'll say. To be continued. So before we end, so thank you to Chris and Lisa. Thank you to wonderful Maria. Wonderful Margins Wine. You can go to marginswine.com to learn more about the wonderful wine that we're drinking. What is it? The
Sangiovese. If you don't know how to spell it, you can look it up. Google Sangiovese. This was a great episode. I want to say I learned some things, and I, as a non-violent human, do want to enjoy more information about how to kind of assert myself if there are violent situations, or just maybe cool things in the bedroom to change things up from time to time when a blanket party happens. So anyway, and that's like not a technical term, the blanket party. That actually, I'm quite fearful of that. So I'm just saying. Anyway, all y'all, if you're out there and you have a minute, take a time. Send us your loving feedback because we do appreciate and we read every single review that you send to us on iTunes. We also appreciate you sending this podcast to your mom, to your dad, to your dog, to your cat, to your sister, to your brother in Jamaica, wherever they are. We love you. And thank you for listening every week. We'll see you next Tuesday, everybody. Ciao for now.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.